Hello and welcome to Romancing Flesh. It's a weird thing for a robot to play, but I was told there was body horror. And that's weirdly a thing I like watching. Oh, we have stuff down here. What is this? Oh, I see. We're in jail. Oh, I understand it. Okay. The warden wants to see you. Follow me. So we're already in jail. Lovely. Delisle Correctional Institute, 1946. He's all yours, sir. You're relieved, Jeremiah. Best to go home to the missus. Thank you, sir. I've transformed Delisle Correctional Institute from a dingy county jail to one of the top facilities in the country. Did you know that? I didn't do that just by imprisoning small-time crooks, murderers, and thieves. No, sir. Over the years, I have curated a very specific type of prisoner. Deviants. They're not like you or me. Sickos, perverts, communists, whatever you want to call them. Communists. They can't be rehabilitated because they're barely human to begin with. And there's always a problem when people start saying that others are not human. And the strangest part is, you think every part of their brain is broken, but they can still feel shame. A father of three will try to shoot you dead if you accuse him of putting on dresses and having sex with bellboys. A well-to-do woman would stick her head in the oven before she admit to dalliance with the colored boy down the road. And hell, even my own mother was a goddamn suffragette, but me or dad would have beaten the snot out of her if we found that out before she croaked on us. That's not exactly a deviant, I think. But anyway, it's a difficult thing to get confessions from these freaks. Now, normally when a district attorney needs a bit more time to build a case against one of these deviants, they'll rush him through the courts on some trumped-up charts, keep him in prison for a while, and hopefully buy enough time to build a case. If they can't, Delisle Correctional Institute will get a confession for them. We've read the works of Freud, Moreno, and Watson, reproduced the experiments of Pavlov and Skinner, and consulted with Wortham, Miller, and Young. And we've distilled them all into an effective methodology that loosens prisoners' tongue, while leaving them free of the physical cuts and bruises that don't play well to judges and juries. Real humane-like. But listen to me ramble on. The reason I brought you here is because your cellmate, a Mr. Charles Keating, is one of these deviants. We've tried our best to build a psychological profile on him, find a proper plan of attack, and Mr. Keating managed to run out the clock on us. Mr. Keating will have served his sentence as of midnight tonight. Unless we get a confession in the next few hours. I want you to read these documents from the U.S. Attorney's Office. If you believe anything in these documents can be used to get a confession out of Mr. Keating, we need to know. So here's the big question then. If this is a correctional institute for deviants, what exactly are we deviants of? Because we're here too. We were a prisoner, which means that we are deviants. We are deviant. We just don't know of what. In return, if you merely read these documents, even if you don't find anything, we'll consider your sentence served. I doubt that very much. I know it sounds too good to be true. It is too good to be true. You're lying to me. I know it. Anything you can tell us might be the key to keeping this monster behind bars. He doesn't fit into the world. He belongs with me. That can be taken several ways, but I don't think anyone belongs with you, sir. Anyway. Okay. Interesting. Cells of plants. A truck. Car. Something along those lines. Recording dated February 12th, 1942. Hello? Dr. Petrov! I'm sorry for the call, but the bus trip is taking a bit longer than I was expecting. But I should be there in just a couple more days. That's fine. I'm still setting up the lab, and most of my supply shipments will be arriving late as well. You should be in town just in time to help me get everything up and running. Phew! Good! Is there anything I should brush up on before I get to the lab? I managed to grab a decent selection of medical journals while I was in Boston. Plant cellular structure. What? The nature of the work we'll be doing is a bit cross-disciplinary. I trust your medical knowledge is up to date, but I need to make sure you've brushed up on some of the basics of botany. I suppose I could visit a bookstore while we're at a stop. A newsstand should have some periodicals. No need for the latest journals, Mr. Keating. You don't need to know the latest scientific learnings, but you should be able to write and illustrate a grade school textbook on the basic plant biology with your eyes closed before you get here. I'll make sure to study hard on the trip over. Good lad. And, if you could bring a tin of real coffee, I'd appreciate it. We're down to the stuff cut with chicory down here. I'll try my best, sir. See you in a few days. Click. Oh, and I forgot to ask if it was alright for me to record the call. Okay, guess that's it. Oh, no, it isn't. There's this. Dearest Mother, the bus trip is a bit longer and more uncomfortable than I was expecting, but I should be in Alabama within a few days. I've called Dr. Petrov's office, and he assures me his facility is a few hours outside of Fayette, so not as far from civilization as I feared. I may have to forego the nightly edition of the paper, but we all must make deep sacrifices in times of war. Please remind Father that Petrov's work is being funded by the U.S. Army, and although I don't exactly be one of the tough SOBs marching into Hirohito's palace, I'll be an active contributor to the war effort. Besides, I hear that if I were a service member, the letters I send you would look like Swiss cheese, and we don't want to exacerbate your lactose intolerance. I hope this letter finds you in better spirits than when I left, and in worse spirits than when I'm there. Your loving son, Charles. Science is a poor pursuit for young men. Yeah, who needs science? We don't need that stuff at all. It's not like, any medical conditions that you could be having, will be solved by science, Too much infatuation with the new and novel, no room to appreciate the refuge of tradition. Quite frankly, Mr. Keating should have seen what was coming next. Well, this is sure interesting. There's thumbs growing out of this, and hair, and then it's a mouth. Whoa. Subject 42FA5, and it's time for her meal. The FA series seems to be able to sense when the fly is near, but further experimentation we need to determine how. Notice here, she swallows the fly whole, crushing it inside of the stomach. Once it starts growing teeth in a few days, she'll switch to chewing, as it conserves a bit more energy. Okay. I don't know what these are. Probably pictures of under a microscope, would be my guess. Recording dated March 3rd, 1942. We are recording now. I don't want to be recorded. Now what the hell did you get me involved with, Dr. Petrov? It's a flower, Charles. It has teeth. It's a flower, Charles. Yes, the teeth were unexpected, but look how evenly they grew in. The dentistry isn't the issue, Dr. Petrov. What you're doing is unethical. How exactly is it unethical? You ripped apart a living, breathing thing to make... Mr. Keating, this isn't a butcher shop. I'm not hacking and stitching animals together like cheap circus attractions. I grew this flower from a blastocyst. I fertilized the egg by needle injection in my lab. What do you mean, grew? Before it reached the embryonic stage, you can count the number of cells inside a blastocyst by hand. If you have an expensive microscope, a small needle, and a lot of time, you can even identify what each of those individual cells would grow and divide into. So I take those individual cells, and instead of letting them grow into a monkey, I manually remove what I don't want it to grow, and rearrange what I do want to grow. But they turn into that? You read those botany books like I told you, yes? Yes? Very simple structures, aren't they? Most of the plant is made of the same type of cell. No complicated organ systems, no skeletal structure, no need for a centralized brain. If I took these pre-embryonic masses of cells and rearranged them willy-nilly, I'd create thousands of malformed failures before I stumbled on a useful form. So instead, I used plant structures as a basis to rearrange the cells, and the results have been astounding. Just a few rows of my pseudo-plant cell design, and not only maintains the structure, but continues growing it naturally, like the animal cells can remember their plant roots. Pardon the pun, of course. But you're missing the point. You're not growing new life, you're forcing something on to suffer from its own birth. They don't suffer, Charles. I've been analyzing their brain patterns. They use so little energy to grow, their brains default to a dream state, a calm, peaceful sleep. And then we'll be killing them for their meat. Yes, but someday it'll design them to grow as large as trees, shedding meat like apples from their branches, living for hundreds of years. A forest of these trees will negate the need to raise animals for slaughter, ending a 10,000-year genocide of innocent creatures. I already bought a plot of land a bit further north for when I'm ready to grow them. I thought it would take decades for me to make something like this, but then I found you. I've read your paper on atypical embryonal development, and it felt like practical extension of my own work on teratology of plants and animals. That paper was on birth defects, Petrov. I can't do that to animals on purpose. That's evolution. It's not a series of beneficial birth defects. It's kind of true. That's kind of true. Everyone has mutations. Most mutations don't do anything, or they're harmful and end up resulting in someone dying. But very rarely you'll come across one that's helpful, and if it is helpful, it sticks around in the population. It would take 1,000 generations and dead ends to spontaneously develop. We could grow overnight. While other scientists are trying to fix problems nature gave us, we'll design a sustainable future for the planet. Well, it should be a future without biting flowers, at least. It does. But maybe you could isolate the stomach and rearrange the structure like a Venus flytrap. A Venus flytrap? See? I'm glad I recorded that because I'm out of pen ink. Tape shut off. Dear Aunt Sonia, happy birthday! I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person this year, but I hope my package arrived for the party. Work has been busier than I expected. I'm sorry if my last 2 letters gave the impression that I can be frank about the work I'm doing, but now that the lab is fully operational and the experiments have started in earnest, I realize some self-censorship on my part will be required. In the vaguest terms possible, my work involves supplementing the Army's diet with quick and cheap meat. But Dr. Petrov has some lofty goals for where the research could lead. I'm sorry to say your sister's son attended college to become a glorified sausage maker, but it's not the worst place war could have taken me. That being said, Dr. Petrov is very passionate about the work we're doing. It's miles different from the lab work at Tufts College. There's half a dozen experiments in different stages of development, and every day I'm learning something new. It's frantic and fast-paced, but energizing. It'll be a while before we're manufacturing canned meats, but I could probably trade you some jerky for your homemade fudge by next Christmas. Your loving nephew, Charles. I don't know if this is something I'd want to eat, but well, whatever. Now, men like you or I, we would know better. When the witch in the woods welcomes you into her gingerbread house, you don't accept the invitation. I don't understand his analogy. Throw her in the fire. Ooh, whoa. These looks like the branches of the lungs. Like you have to sort of think of your lungs as like a balloon with these branch-like things in it. And these things are what grab up the oxygen. The oxygen sort of like brushes, attached to them when air rushes past them. And they're the ones that grab the oxygen and start, pulling it into your body. So I think that's what these are. I could be wrong though. And I don't know what this part is at all. But I think this is supposed to be like lungs. It's a lung plant. I think these are like lizard claws. And I have no idea what this is at all. No idea what those would be. Recording dated August 24th. Okay, it's on. Say that again, Charles. Chimera? Aha, yes, but the whole thing. You drank the entire thing. You said the whole thing again. Okay. The plant animals we've been growing tend to be fairly small for a lot of reasons. I think he's drunk. We've only grown them from single rearranged blastocysts. We've only allowed them a few weeks to reach maturity. The plants can't grow faster than the animal's parts it came from would. Yes, but get to the important part. Okay, so our experiments with grafting have been failures, but instead of trying to graft during adulthood, we can simply make our pre-embryonic blueprints bigger by using more blastocysts. And this wouldn't result in rejection because we have well-documented cases of siblings ingesting each other, smaller embryos in the womb resulting in embryo containing cells from both siblings, chimeras. We will merely start at the stage in the process even earlier and assemble larger plants. Now that implies we can only use genetic siblings to build these plants. I assume we can't use other animals too genetically unsimilar. We could certainly experiment and find out. I'd certainly like to see a rabbit pigeon dandelion or something. If you blow on it, a bunch of seeds will fly out on rabbit ear wings. You see, inspiration can strike at any time, Charles. We could have forgotten all about this in the morning. Yeah, it's fine. I can see the merits of your little recording device there. Oh, another idea. What if you made plant animals that interconnected with each other, like pieces of a puzzle piece? You could have one plant specifically designed to collect and refine nutrients, which can feed a second plant that can just focus on growing bigger. That's a strange place to need a mouth, Charles. Whatever you like to put your mouth is fine to me, Dr. Petrov. What was that? Oh, yes, I'll find this little joke. Let's call it a night. Now, you aren't recording this by chance, are you? Oh, he might like boys. Ooh, what are these? I can't tell what these are. I don't know. I don't know what these are. I was gonna say, though, that plants that are similar can sometimes, accept grafting from other plants onto themselves. I think there's a tree somewhere. I don't have, the name for it or anything, but, there's a tree somewhere that has grafted several different parts onto it from, several different types of fruit-bearing trees. So, it's a tree that, has a bunch of different types of fruit that will grow on it because it's all been grafted together to do that. Plants are really weird like that. Another thing, too, is if you take a plant, I've seen this with a tree. Someone planted a tree, and then they took the tree out of the soil, turned it upside down so that its branches were now in the ground like they were roots, and then to put the roots obviously above ground like they were branches. And the tree was just like, oh, well, I guess I move this way now. And the roots became branches, and the branches became roots. I mean, it wouldn't be very useful to do that a whole lot, but it's fascinating to see that they can just adapt like that. Dear Cousin Delilah, I've been paying extra to get the hometown paper shipped down here in Alabama, and I read that you won a blue ribbon for your peanut butter fudge at the county fair last month. You must be absolutely over the moon. Accurate and late to a lesser extent, as I've told you in my last correspondence, I'm finally getting the hang of this work which must be secret, and I've managed to make a breakthrough of my own. Essentially, for the past year, I've been trying to perfect Dr. Petrov's recipes. He'll make some new sort of confectionery, and when he feels like I'm ready, I'll go through with the hard work of perfecting it. A little less flour here, a little more baking powder there, trying to get the ratios just right. But I finally made a recipe of my own. I hope someday I can share it with you and the rest of the family, and make you as proud of as you all make me, especially the ribbon winners among you. P.S. Take heed, your mother won't stay the number 2 baker in the family for long, and she'll make everyone in the family fat with fudge until she's reclaimed her crown. If they'd stopped there, I might be hailing them as gastronomic pioneers. Heck, I might have eaten a rib-eye salad for dinner tonight. But I think they wanted more than food. I'm guessing that's one of those plant meat things. And this is a rabbit that has plant parts, sort of. Malformed arm. Another weird flower. Recording dated November 20th, 1942. Same year, basically. We may have hit a snag with the rabbit experiment. Are we recording a log with the rabbit experiment? It's just a lover's spat, Sergey. They'll be back together in no time. The rabbit's new leg bit it, Charles. I warned you this might happen if we didn't engineer both of the animals together that way. Ulna was a little confused, that's all. Let Jack settle down for a couple days, and I'm sure he'll take Ulna back. After seeing how quickly Jack took to his new leg, I was more than happy to let this whole thing keep going. But is this necessarily the best thing for both of them? Ulna can move around on her own, and so can Jack. They're not wholly dependent on one another. Maybe we should just let them stay friends. Just stay friends? We should really be focusing on our real work. Plus, this is starting to veer off both of our areas of extra people. I can totally speak. Let's just call the experiment off for now. You want to call it off, Sergey? Well, maybe I should take your advice and engineer a new symbiote for Ulna. Then, a new partner might solve Ulna's problems. I don't know what sort of effect that'll have on Jack, mentally speaking. Again, Charles, this is all very new to me. Everything we've been doing here has been new to me. Some new experimental organism, a novel discovery, some unexpected results, and it's exciting, don't get me wrong, but it's nice to have someone reliable in all that chaos, who is also a little exciting himself. And I'm glad that person has been you. Dots. Maybe we can keep Jack and Ulnar experiment going. We can pick up the discussion in the morning if you prefer. Ah, they like each other. Dear Great Uncle Anthony, I tried recreating your famous dry rub mix. Some of the ingredients were hard to come by, rationing and all that, but I think we managed to get a close approximation. We threw a little backyard barbecue for the neighborhood to taste test our first production of batch of meat, and it was a resounding success. This whole experiment has given me a newfound appreciation for the time I spent on your farm when I was younger. Dr. Petrov nearly fainted during the butchering process, leaving me to do it all on my own. He reminded me of the time you put Clarabelle chicken on my dinner plate. Oh. Please write back when you have the chance. I'm dying to hear how the rest of the family is doing. Your city slicker grandnephew, Charles. Everything you've read so far is what I've had to scrape and scrounge to get from government files. So you already read all the juicy stuff. The rest is the boys in blue mopping up. Oh, they're firing on these plants with mouths. Instant report narrative. On the above date, P.O. Daniels responded to a call about an escaped animal. Upon finding the loose cow, P.O. Daniels saw its mouth was covered in blood. Upon closer inspection, the grass the cow was eating was some kind of malformed rat stuck in the ground. After calling for backup, officers discovered a sizable acreage of buried deformed animals. Mr. Kinney became agitated, and in response, officers were forced to put him into submission. Mr. Petrov was taken into custody for questioning. For health and safety reasons, it was decided to humanely dispatch the animals before bringing Mr. Petrov and Feeling into custody. Memo from the Office of Redacted. As my JAG officer has previously claimed on my behalf, Dr. Sergei Petrov was awarded a government contract from General Redacted, who died at Redacted during Redacted, resulting in a transition period in which most of Petrov's work, of an already secretive nature, was done with little to no oversight until my office was made aware of it. Unfortunately, my upcoming absolvement may result in many more officers lower among the chain of command being found at fault. Officers you do not want to bring to court during these desperate times. Considering the improbability of systematic failure within the U.S. Armed Forces, I suggest we propose the possibility that foreign agents were involved. Under the specific circumstance that Petrov was working as a contractor, a treason charge would take him outside of the U.S. military jurisdiction and tried as civilian. You're welcome. Okay. To Redacted. Mr. Keating and I are currently in Fayette County Jail. I believe the police have set fire to most of our work. I tried to save as much of our work as possible, but please send copies of all the records I've sent so far to your offices, and if you have any internal copies of your correspondences, please send those as well. We've made remarkable progress in the last few months, and I believe if we act quickly, we can still reach our first production deadline. Thank you, Sergei Petrov. We live in a delicate world in a fragile time. This is not an era for radical new ideas. We just fought a long and hard war to re-establish the grand order of the world, for heaven's sake. And on American soil, a couple of dandy bookworms were playing God and feeding diseased meat to our children. I couldn't stand it. So I took a leaf from Mr. Petrov's playbook. I psychologically tore Mr. Keating apart and reformed and re-educated him as I saw fit. Into you. Oh, we're Keating. I didn't see that coming, actually. The disassociated state you're in, Mr. Keating gives you a state of clarity, doesn't it? You can see what I see. Why didn't your family ever write you back? Why did your lover try to rescue his work instead of you? If you leave this prison tonight, where can you go? You know the answers. You know why you're here. You know why you need to sign this confession. Why you need to stay behind bars. You left home and traveled across the country, hoping you'd change into the sort of person your family would miss. But instead of doing something to make them proud, you dedicated to pursue what made you happy, and you became a sick caricature of everything your parents hated about you in the first place. A mama's boy sticking his meat in the dirt hoping it'd grow. Sign the confession. If you leave this prison now, you'll undo all the work I've done for you. You'll fall back into bad habits and become the same person you were 3 years ago. And none of us want that, would you? No, I don't want to change back, Warden. I've made so much progress. It was hard fabricating the equipment necessary to continue Dr. Petrov's work, but you wouldn't believe how fruitful my experiments have become. And quite frankly, I like the person I've become. Whoa, what? Whoa! We turned into a plant monster and ate him! I like that ending, actually. That's a good ending. It took me months to find you. You didn't answer when I called your name. Oh, this is Petrov. From a distance, I almost couldn't recognize you. But I found you. I hope you're dreaming of me. Drinking from the brook, eating the fruit from your branches, huddling in the rain and sleet in your safe embrace. And someday, in a brief moment of lucidity, maybe you'll read this message and know I'm gone. You wanted us to change the world, and we did. Starting with ourselves. I'll always remember you fondly. Love, Charles. Finn. Wow! Okay, that was cool. I didn't see that ending coming. I was gonna be a bit disappointed if we were like, oh, we signed the confession. Oh, darn. Oh, that sucks. But they did answer the question of, like, who were we to be this one looking over stuff? And then, like, trying to get a confession out of this guy. Oh, it's because we are that guy. That makes sense. This was really cool. I like this a lot. I hope you enjoyed it too. And I will see you on whatever it is I next play. Bye-bye!